For having me.
Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk Podcast. And we're here today to talk about Kemar Roofe. I mean, I was sat there earlier at work, just as you do on a work day, just kind of there. And all of a sudden, someone comes to me and goes, "Oh, we've signed Kemar Roofe." I was like, "Come on, surely we haven't." And yeah, it's true. We've signed Kemar Roofe, and it seems like a really, really good signing for Derby. He's the sort of attacker that Derby have needed. We're really light in those sort of areas. So to get someone of that sort of quality is really, really interesting. So joining me today, you may have heard him already, to talk to us all about Kemar Roofe is Leeds content creator Billy Reid. How you doing, Billy? You right, mate?
Yeah, not bad. As everyone's heard, thanks for having me. And yeah, if there's anyone I want to talk about, it's Kemar Roofe. Former Leeds players, can't get enough of them. So yeah. No.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of excitement today from Derby fans. Like I mentioned, we're really struggling for attacking players at the moment. We've had a lot of players that have kind of underperformed. We've got new signs that have come in that haven't really hit the ground running. Our wide players have kind of struggled for the majority of the season. So a player that's proven in the Championship and has scored so many goals for Leeds, for Anderlecht, for Rangers, it's really exciting. So, Billy,
Yeah.
I guess first question is, what sort of player is he? What can Derby fans expect from Kemar Roofe?
To be honest, he's not like your typical kind of forward. He's not someone who kind of leads the line with great physical play. He's not like the most quick. The reason why he's so good in attacking areas is just his like movement. Defenders will have him and then somehow he's in space. Like he's just one of those players that's kind of a nightmare to pick up. It's kind of like got the movement of like a attacking midfielder, but as a striker. Because like physically, he's not like exceptional, like he's not got like rapid kind of speed. It's just, the movement and kind of, I think the intelligence, that's his main asset. And that's why I think that even if he is like an aging striker, that kind of, he'll still be able to just get into those spaces and still score goals. He's a bit of an unorthodox striker, I'd say. I've not really seen anything kind of, well, we've not had any striker like that since, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, it sounds a bit like a 9.5, isn't it? I think I've seen that term used
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
Where, he's not an attacking mid, he's not a striker. I mean, Derby had a player. I mean, you all know Mate Vidra, very
yeah.
very good player, but he was the same. He wasn't the quickest. He wasn't an out and out striker, but we played him just behind David Nugent, and he had a lot of joy because he fed off scraps, and when the ball had bounced out to the edge of the box, like you said, his movement, he'd always be there. I mean, the way you mentioned him there, Derby have signed a player called Lars Jurgen Salverson. He's the big number 9. Wins headers, wins flick-ons. I'm sort of seeing here that they could be, I guess, a bit of a front two.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're going to play a front two, that sounds perfect. He is sort of like a player who works really well off other players. And also I think that for like a team who are kind of in a relegation battle, he is the exact kind of striker you want. Like he's the sort of player who just will end up in space and get that. Like you'll think, he's not performed well for the whole game, and then he's suddenly like getting the tap in the 85th minute. But yeah, I could see him really working well off just like another player. I mean, I think that's why maybe under Bielsa he wasn't the ideal striker, because Bielsa, plays with like a 4-3-3. It's a very specific kind of pressing role. And maybe Kemar Roofe physically doesn't have like that kind of pressing sort of, he's not like a pressing forward. But in like working off someone, or if you just need someone who's a bit of a, I'm not going to say fox in the box, but, someone who's just getting in those spaces to get those goals that are needed, to take a draw to a win or take a loss from a draw. He's kind of perfect for that.
Yeah, well, that's what Derby need, is someone to put the ball in the back of the net.
He's one of those players for sure.
Well, that's it. One open play goal in our last 8 games. I think,
Wow.
if we could, I know, if we can get someone that can change that maybe a little bit, that'd be very beneficial. I mean, when he first came into Leeds, I don't think he was really that well known. He had a really good season in League Two, scored 20 or something goals, and ended up at Leeds. And I mean, like I said, I don't think a lot was expected of him. But how did he sort of progress from initially joining?
Well, to give you an idea of kind of how much he progressed, like when he signed, I don't think any Leeds fan was negative about it, because Leeds weren't in the position we are now. This was like a Leeds team that had been pretty pretty average for quite a while. So, taking a chance on like a League Two, like a played well for them, wasn't too bad. But I remember after a year meeting like an Oxford fan at like a party, and we just bonded over the fact that we both loved Kemar Roofe. So like he did make a really good impression in his first season. I think it's the fact that, he just works, like he's maybe not physically like working hard, but he gives it his all, and he comes up in those big moments, and that's what really leaves an impression. But I think he transitioned really well from like League Two to the Championship. There was never a point where like Leeds were calling for another striker. I think maybe he had like a limit, which was, the Championship, or maybe like the top half of the Championship. But, if you're in the Championship or the bottom half, then he's definitely like the sort of player who can like do a job for you and, score goals for you. But no, I think he progressed really well at Leeds. And if he might have been the same as Jermaine Beckford, who could have taken on the next step and gone to the Premier League if it hadn't been for injuries. But also, I think it is maybe the physical side of the game that stops him from taking it to that next level. But yeah, no, injuries obviously don't help on that either.
No, Beckford's not a name I expected to hear tonight. God, that's
that's a Leeds reference. That's what Leeds fans remember, and no one else.
My best mate growing up was a Leeds fan, so I had to hear a lot about that man, unfortunately. But I mean, looking at what he did, obviously he was at Leeds. I remember he scored against us. We were talking about it before we started recording. He scored against us in that playoff semi-final. We won't talk about the second leg to preserve your sanity, but everyone knows which second leg I'm on about. But then he ended up having a couple of weird moves. He went to Anderlecht, ended up scoring, pretty much a goal every 2 games for Anderlecht, which isn't bad in the Belgian top division, and then ended up moving up to Scotland at Rangers. Were you surprised to see him, sort of move to a team playing in Europe? Obviously, he scored that goal, didn't he, that keeps being replayed. I saw it earlier, where he scored from pretty much his own half. Derby conceded one of those this season, so we know how horrible that is when it goes in. But were you surprised to see him sort of, I guess, make the step up to European competition? Or did you think, maybe that's just his next level?
No, I think he is the sort of player who can do, it wasn't completely unexpected. I think if he'd moved to like maybe a higher league European team, that would have been a bit of a surprise. But then also, again, I could see him being like a kind of reserve player for like a bigger team. Because he is the sort of player who can do like the unexpected. Like that goal, there was also like different moments for Leeds where he does things and you're like, where the heck has that come from? So I think he is there. He's a bit of an unorthodox player. But he's not one where you're like really shocked that he moved up to that level. To be honest, I completely forgot about the Anderlecht move because of how like I think he's had a much bigger impact or stayed for longer at Rangers. That's kind of like the move I remember. But no, with Kemar, like that kind of seemed like a normal like step. I mean, I don't think Leeds fans were incredibly disappointed to see him go, but also like he did like do a job. And like he's brought like a lot of fond memories. There was a 5-day period one Christmas where we came back against Villa to win 3-2, and came back against Blackburn to win 2-1 with goals both in the 95th minute, and he scored both of them in like a 5-day period. So like when it comes to clutch moments and just like memories, he's like a player that really stands out. Like because there were games where he'd be pretty ineffectual. But you always remember those moments where he is the deciding factor in just ridiculous games. And I mean, for Derby, that's probably going to be incredibly helpful because there are going to be games where you need something ridiculous. Like if you've scored 1 goal from 8 games, you need like a bit of magic. So I think he is definitely the sort of player who can bring that if he stays fit.
Well, that's it. And Derby are also yet to win a game when they've gone behind this season. I don't know if they're the only team in the Championship, but we've got to be one of few that haven't done that. Don't get me wrong, we've lost a lot of games and we've been ahead. But it'd be nice for it to go the other way. And having someone like Roofe that can unlock a door. We've seen it a lot where Derby are banging on the door and they just can't break through because they don't have that moment of quality. So Roofe himself says he thinks he's a better player now than last time he was in the Championship. So let's hope he can prove it. I just want to ask about what he's like as a guy. again, when you bring new players in, you want to make sure they're the right kind of people, don't you?
Yeah,
What
for
did he
sure.
sort of come across at Leeds?
I think just a very sort of respectable guy. There were no like controversial moments. At that time we had Pontus Jansson, who was kind of the other scale, where like he was a cult hero, but it was through winding up the opposition and being like a bit loud. Like the reason why Bielsa sold him was because of like attitude problems. While I think with Kemar is more like stylistic differences. So I think there is nothing to worry about like temperament wise. He seems like a really like hardworking, just a quite like level headed. Like I can't remember any moments where like you question his mentality or personality. I don't think he's one of those players who will, do things that like, make fans absolutely love him personality wise. Like he's not the sort of player who will do something, to wind up the opposition, but he's just a very like level headed kind of, yeah. I mean, I can't remember too much more about his personality, but that maybe says a lot about his personality in that he was quite reserved and, like he didn't make headlines. Like for what he was saying or his attitude. He was just, good professional, really.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want. And I mean, taking a little peek at the comments, there's been some positive ones already. He is the sort of player that can make a difference. And again, I think Derby after this are probably a winger away from looking quite a good bet. Let's hope that Derby can get something done. So one final question to you, Billy. I guess it's two questions, but it's written in one bullet point here. What can we expect from Kemar Roofe at Derby? And do you think that he will succeed?
I think what you can expect is a player who will turn up in big moments. If you get him on the pitch, he's the sort of guy who will score that goal and just turn up. Like his movement for this level is just like, it's just elite on kind of like getting away from defenders. I think that if you can get him on the pitch, like he will be like a difference maker. What was the second question? Sorry. Will he succeed? I think so. Like, to be honest, he's one of those names that, you'd kind of think because of injuries and stuff. And because he last played for us, I think 6 years ago. He's one of those players I'd kind of forgotten about. But then I looked at his age and he's only 32. Like if you need a player for a couple of seasons, that's completely like, he's still like physically can play. And I think he's never like relied on his physical attributes. So I think he is the sort of player who is perfect for a couple of seasons. And I think you got him in a free, didn't you? So
yeah,
for me,
on a free 6-month deal.
Yeah, perfect. That's from Football Manager, that's like ideal. You can test them out for 6 months, and then if it doesn't work, that's the later.
This is Football Manager would be far too old, mate. So it's all good.
I'm saying that like I haven't gone anywhere near him. But yeah, no, I think he will succeed. I'm going to back Kemar.
Good stuff. That's exactly what all of us will want to hear. So thank you so much for joining us, Billy. If people want to find out more about you, find out more about every tweet you do that seems to get like 60,000 likes for some reason, where can they find you?
Just _ Billy Reid. Yeah, I don't know how they do either. It's a mystery, so...
Great stuff. Thank you so much to everyone for listening. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like, please do subscribe, please do give us a rating on Spotify, Apple Pods. Make sure you check out Billy and all of his stuff as well. So let's hope Kemar Roofe can deliver and Derby can score some goals and we can actually win some games. Thank you very much.
No worries.